Good evening and welcome back to the channel. So I want to give a general update and just a general message that's going to reiterate a lot of things that I've already said, but they're worth repeating. The only thing that matters right now, and you might disagree with me on this, this is my opinion. I'm going to lay out why this is the only thing that matters, but the only thing that matters is the changing narrative, guys. And I hate to keep going over narratives, but they run our society. They run all the conversations. They control media. They control public discourse. They control policy, right? So that's the only thing that matters. And the narrative changing from trust the science, this is about your own public health and public safety. The narrative changing from that to this was a catastrophic institutional failure and a crime against humanity. The narrative changing from one to the other is the only thing that matters at this point in time, because any type of movement in financial markets that happens between now and then gets completely thrown out the window when that happens, because of all of the implications of the narrative shifting and the right side of history changing, which in my opinion, it was always intended to turn out this way, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so none of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. It's also not medical advice. I'm not a medical professional. The US dollar and many US-based companies that make up our stock market, both of those things, not all companies, all right, not all companies, but many companies, most of the big tech companies, many a big pharma. So those companies and the US dollar are married, are attached at the hip with these policies and this narrative that are rapidly collapsing. All right. So that being the case, reversely, on the other side of the story, the crypto market, the crypto CEOs, the crypto companies, they are not associated with these narratives. They are not associated with these policies. Many of them, many prominent CEOs and individuals in the crypto and Bitcoin space have come out and openly criticized these policies. That's why I've showed you numerous examples of this, but there's been even more since then. So the narrative shifting from one to the other is the biggest thing to pay attention to, because let's just say crypto goes up or down 10-15% in the short term, or the stock market does, or any market does. Everything gets thrown out of the window when this happens. This is the biggest catalyst in the history of the world. Well, let me rephrase that. This is the biggest catalyst in our lifetimes, by far, no close second. Because of all of the implications here. The implications for the dollar. I mean, I would not want, and this is why people really, you have to think bigger picture in a time like this, right? I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure, because I'm sure a lot of y'all, on the same page, but you really have to think bigger picture with all of this, because of all of the just catastrophic implications of this narrative falling apart. And nothing else matters. It really doesn't. Like, I'm just waiting for it to unfold. That's what I'm doing. That's my mindset. I don't give a shit what the price does. I don't care what the IMF comes out and says. I don't care if Gensler, it continues to be an obstructionist and refuse to approve a spot ETF. None of that matters. It's actually playing in your favor, because we are coming up on a complete and utter meltdown of institutions in our country and all around the world. What that's going to do to financial markets, I have no idea. But I would not for a second want any of my net worth, any more than what needs to be, in any of those old companies that are married to these toxic, catastrophic policies. I wouldn't want any of my money there. The liability associated with that is just unbelievable. Or in the US dollar. The United States government is going to be implicated in the funding and the research that more than likely caused this entire event. And then, to add insult to injury, they covered it up. When I say they, I mean several different public health officials. And they will be thrown under the bus because of it. All right? And after that, all bets are off. All bets are off, man. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like that I know how this is going to play out. But I'm just telling you, the narrative drives everything. The narrative drives everything. And if the narrative changes, all bets are off. There's no point, no Fibonacci level, no announcement from the Fed, no nothing, no SEC blocking this, the IMF says this, none of that shit matters. The biggest thing, this is the biggest story in the history of our lives. And it has very specific implications depending on which side of the narrative that you're on, or which narrative that you side with, all right? Because the crypto companies, the crypto CEOs have aligned themselves with the right side of history. Many companies that make up our stock market, the US dollar, they are married to the wrong side of history. That's as simple as it is. That's it. That's it. Make your bet, you know. I mean, and you have gold and silver too, which is, you know, sovereign money, and it's not married to anything. But just understand the US dollar and many US corporations, and this is why you're going to see a mass pivot, and that some of them might not, you know, but we're going to see other companies do like what Starbucks did. And we're already seeing schools start to come out and do this too. So I'm just telling you that they are married to that, to those policies, to that narrative, and they are destined to be on the wrong side of history. What that's going to do to financial markets, I have no idea, but this is hands down, by far, no questions asked, the biggest financial markets catalyst in the history of the world. And I can't believe that other people that cover financial markets can't see this. You know, it blows my mind. Like, you know, saying that people need to be held accountable, you know, Fauci needs to be arrested, blah, 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 blah. Like, saying all of that stuff, it's all well and good, but go the next level. What would happen in a situation like that? If Fauci gets jammed up, that means the government is implicated. He's a government employee. He's the highest paid government employee. What do you think that means for the dollar? What do you think that means for the stock market? And guys, I'm not saying this is all going to happen in one day. This is going to be a series of events that plays out. I don't know how it's going to play out, right? And I'm, to some degree, assuming this is going to play out, right? Because I can't see into the future. I can just judge trends and momentum, and that's what's happening right now. So it's not just me who's saying this. If you listen to the Brett Weinstein podcast that I put in my community tab, is saying very similar things. But they don't see the bigger picture that's happening with the new internet and financial system that's being implemented at the very same time that this major catalyst is going on. So at the very same time, I want you to think about this. At the very same time where a new internet and financial system is being rapidly implemented all over the world, and it's designed to replace many of our institutions and our corporations. It's designed to do that over time. At the same time that's happening, a major catalyst that could destroy so many things that we're probably getting rid of anyways is about to go down. You couldn't have made this, you couldn't have wrote this script any better. You couldn't have wrote this script any better. Like, I'm in awe. I really am. This is a perfect storm. Perfect storm. And it's just about waiting. It's just about, that's what you're not waiting on any type of thing, that any Fibonacci level, any nothing, any weekly close, any green dot, red dot, none of that matters. What matters is the narrative shifting from one to the other and the fallout that happens after that. That's it. That's all. I'm out. Have a good night.